So today we're going to go through a whole project of how to take your orthographics into SolidWorks and create a product. We're going to do this in two stages. Usually when we build a product, we do a main body of the whole project or the whole product. Then we come in and do the detailing, the cutouts, the button, and etc. All the fillets. Okay, so for the first step, I'm taking a screenshot of each of these so I can upload them in the corresponding plane. So I'm going to, I came out of the file. I'm going to go to, for example, my front plane and bring in the front view of that model by going to Tools, Sketch Picture. So this is the front view. And I already measured full product is 5.5 inch. So I'm adding a center line for that measurement to help me resize all of my images. I'm going to try my best to center this hand sketch over that center line and bring in each of these sides one by one. That looks pretty good. I go a little bit lower. All right, I'm happy with this. I'll just do a slight transparency, maybe 20%. It is a light picture. So this sketch is done. So this is going to be my front view. Then I will go to the right plane and we'll do the same thing over here. We're going to bring the side view and this time we're going to use our reference on the front to resize and match up the sketch together. So basically the middle of center will be there. I need to check the heights. This portion takes slightly a little bit of a time, but once we have all of them, we can see that this line and that lines are matching, so that's good. I need to check the bottom. So it looks like my height is matched. And we need to make sure this is also on the center of this image. Okay, I'm going to slightly rotate to check these lines are matching up. This top line slightly off. This line's matching up, so I might just make my image slightly larger. Now we have all these lines matching up. So I'm going to double check from the front and back, make sure this is centered to that. I think I can push it a bit more forward to center this. And also I can look at the button. Sure, the button does not look right. This looks too large for the button. So I need to move this down. Let's double check again. Now it looks good. You can see, so there's a line. Okay. I'm going to check on this as well. Now we have only the top view left. So we'll go to the top plane and do the same exact thing. Tools, sketch tools, and sketch picture. This would be our top view. If it comes rotated, here you can change the orientation, say 90°. Okay, that works out. Need to minimize this. The reason we'll bring in actual hand sketches is because if we design in SolidWorks, everything looks very geometric and clunky, and you don't get those gesture lines or nice curves that a hand sketch has. So that would be the main reason. To stay true to your design, you can bring actual picture in here and try to follow and build on it. So I'm trying to match that side. Let's see. Looks like this line should match with that line. So, okay, now it's better on this. This back is also looking better. See? Let's make sure it's also centered. I think this needs to go slightly that way. This looks a bit more wider. See if I make the whole thing a bit larger. So this front also matches. Check from the top again, make sure it's centered. It looks pretty centered. Okay, so we have all three images here. You guys can almost see the product. I might go to actually the first one and drop it, or second one and pull it up a little bit so these lines match. As we can see, something shifted on that one. So it takes a minute to set this up, but once we do have it set up, everything else will be really easy and smooth. Okay, again, I'm looking at that line, that curve. And I think this is slightly below the origin. So I'm just gonna push this up. Let's see. Okay, that looks much better. All right, so now that we have all of our form here, we're gonna talk about process of building this product. So if I look at this product, there is a body on the bottom and there's this main form. So this body on the bottom is going to be pretty simple. There's a few extrusions that are done here. So we can come in and do a few extrusion down here and then create a connecting maybe cylinder into the form. But this main body just uses a loft and we need multiple planes to do that. So we definitely need a plane on the end. We need a plane. I'm in a bad view. We need a plane right on the back. There's a slight slant. We need a plane right above that slant. And because it's curving, we're going to add a plane over here. So we have three sections. Then we also need guide curves, kind of connecting all of our sections together. And for timing, we're definitely going to ignore any details that exist. So no button, none of these cuts. So we will have two main bodies when we're done with this whole form. All right, let's start from the base, the easy part. We'll start with the top view and just going to use my center line because I'll use the midpoint center line because this whole form is symmetrical. So I'm just going to use that to my advantage. This is the construction line. And here is So set, definitely anytime you mirror a spline, you need to set it perpendicular to that mirroring plane or line. And use as little points as possible. The more points you have, the basically your curves won't be as smooth. Okay, this is good. Now I'll mirror this over this line. Perfect. Without both sides. I can push this slightly so the other side also looks a bit bigger. That's exactly why we mirror things. All right, this is done. And it will be a simple extrusion. Let's take a look. So it looks like about 0.15 inch. And next portion is actually a circle. So we're going to come on top of this shape, do a sketch. I'm going to be aligned with my center, but I'm not going to click on the origin because I don't know if this origin is the center of my shape, just so we don't hook to that. If you did in case do this, if you hooked it, and then you come in and you realize the back is way farther back and this needs to move, all we need to do is delete that relationship. Okay, so I can see that this should move slightly back. And I need to make it slightly larger. Okay, the sides look okay. The front still needs a bit more. I shift this more toward the front. Okay, let me double check. It's pretty close. So I'm gonna put a center line from the origin to this to make sure I can have this to be vertical. Then we'll give a measurement 2.3. That seems precise. We'll keep that. And looks like this form here has a slight slant, so we'll extrude it with a draft. Let's do a 0.2 maybe. Yeah, that looks good. And we're going to need slight draft inward. Clicking on the draft. We're looking at the back and the front. Okay. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So we have, let's do a 25-degree to round things up. All right, we have two of our forms done. Now to click this into the body and kind of the motor and the wiring part, we do need a cylinder, which we cannot see. So I'm just going to come in and add a small cylinder anyway. So here we go. I'm going to do this. Imagine this would be a part that connects to the rotational or vibrational portion. Feature extrude. Also, because this has to go into a pin, I'm going to do a thin feature on this. Maybe on the inside. And go up for 0.5. So it's basically connecting the sander to the other part. Okay. So this would be our body number 1. And we're going to come in now and build the planes to create the loft for body number 2. Because we have this slant here, I'm going to start my first loft above this. So it's going to be a plane over here, one here, and one on the back. So when I click on the top plane, hold Control, and come to the side of it. Once I see the 4 arrow, I'm going to click and drag up. This copies. in parallel. Okay, so 1.5 maybe, just to round things up. And I need one more in the back. Front, we'll hold control, click and drag. That looks good. We know there's a slight slant that could be achieved with a fillet later on. Okay. And now we need one in the middle. To create a plane exactly where you want an angle, one way is to just draw a line where you want your plane. So this is going to be my line of reference. I'm going to come out of the sketch and go under features, reference, geometry, and plane. Now we pick this as a reference geometry. We also need a secondary reference, something that would be perpendicular to would be the right plane. Okay, so now that we have fully defined plane, I'm going to turn off my sketch. Okay, good. So now we have 3 planes where we need our sketches. I'm going to make these slightly smaller so our view is clean and clear. Okay, we'll start with, so because the form is symmetrical, I'm only going to build half the sketches. And we have one side flat, so that would be easy. The other thing that's really important to pay attention to, this back part, this is around with a square, but the front part is curved. So if I go back here, so you guys can see the image, sketch tools. So if we look at this one, can't make it any bigger. Just open it probably. So just so we have it as a view, this front is rounded and the back is flat. The key to of lines going from one sketch to another sketch. For example, if I have a line here, and then a curve, and then another line, then a curve, and then another line. So we have 3 sections of line, 2 sections of curve. That's 5 sections. So when we come here, we still need to do the same thing. We need to still find 5 sections. So that's the key thing to get smooth lofts. All right, I'm gonna come out of this. That was just for the reference. And we'll come to our plane 1 and start sketching. Let's start with a rectangle because we're starting on one side. First, I need to make sure this origin is on this line so we don't pass the midpoint because we are trying to mirror the whole thing. So now I'm looking at that line, trying to match up. And also on the front. Okay, now we'll look from the front. Okay, this needs to get slightly wider. Even more. And I can look straight down. This actually looks pretty good. So now we come in and fillet. The front has a very large fillet. The back has slightly smaller fillet. So the front's almost smooth, but as you can see, I'm leaving a slight, I can't go anymore. So 1-inch fillet, a slight flat. So when we go to the back, they kind of match up. Okay, and then this one, we're gonna go down, maybe 0.7. Okay. So the sketch is done. Gonna finish and come out. I did not add any measurements. We can, sorry about that. Let's see. This is a 1.1. And our height is, I'll just do it 2.7 to round things up. Okay. Now, line number 3. I'm gonna do another sketch. One more time. A rectangle. Then this side. Need to match for this end. On the top, up here, we're gonna ignore the button as if this curve was complete. So I'm gonna come in probably a bit lower than that. It seems okay. Now from the side, also needs to line up. It's slightly tricky. That might be decent. Okay, let's do some measurements. I'll just do a 0.1 inch on this one to round it off. And again, it's a 2.7. And need to make sure we're aligned with this origin so it doesn't shift past the midpoint. I'm gonna do this and set that to be vertical. Oh, the other way, horizontal actually. Right now it's just turning black, which is what we want. Okay, let's add the fillets. That might have a problem with our 8, 9. Okay, I'm doing 9.5 because the other part was the other fillet we did was a 0.1 was 1, and then this is slightly smaller. Now this one we're gonna go even, so it was a 0.7, so I'm gonna try to do point maybe 6, slightly less, and this is done. Now we'll go to the last plane. And this would be the easiest of all because it is a rounded square. One more time, I'll start with a rectangle. Then try to match the top and bottom. It's like, I want to kind of imagine if this line continued, how that would look. Okay. And there's that line. I look from this side now. Somewhere there. Okay, let's add some measurements again. 0.9 and 1.65, or it could be a 1.6. So it is slightly getting smaller, this whole product. I do still need to make sure this is staying on the correct half. So a center line and setting that to be vertical. Might also get smaller than this because the front was 0.9, so let's do a 0.8. So this is now a square because 0.8 and 1/6. Now we'll come in and add fillets. And the fillets are even. A 0.5 fillet. Should reduce one. I think 0.5 is looking okay. All right. That works. Let me see if this needs to be slightly lifted to that line. Yeah. So now that we have all of our three sections, I'm actually gonna hide these planes. Now that we have all these three sections, we're gonna come in and put a guide curve here and here. Make sure you save your file. Your base. So I'll go to the right plane and use the spline tool. This is important. We only have three sections, so we only need 3 points. Just gonna make sure I'm gonna click on them. If they don't click, you can later on, for example, I'm just gonna set this on the side. If it doesn't click, you're gonna come in, select one, hold shift, select your other point, and press coincident. So now you know they're actually over there. And when I try to pull this, you see this was not connected. So one more time, when I click this, hold shift, go like that, and coincident. Now everything's black. So trying to match this the best we can. Okay, that's slightly better. It needs to come down. Right, this is one of our sketch. Now we're gonna do the top one. They are on different planes, not different sketches. So we can kind of keep track of them. One more time. Trying to hover where we can see this point. Like, doesn't let me click on it. That's okay. We'll come back to that one. Okay. So this one, holding shift, and I find this point. Say coincident. Okay. And this is now, so we're assuming this is a full curve and basically the button is not existing at the moment. So, okay, if there's a big kink here, because we're gonna come in and cut all of that anyway. So I'm going with it's better on the top. There we go. Okay, close enough. Let's finish this. And so now we have all of the elements to create this loft. So let's do features, loft. So it's important to pick the loft in order and try to pick the same side on each one. So if I'm picking the front of here, then if I pick the back over there, it will twist it and doesn't know how to make it. However, if I bring this point back to the front, it will start building it. So it's really important where you select. All right, we'll see something. Let's go to our guide curves. Let's add this and add this. All right, nice. Looks like we have a smooth loft happening. We'll press OK. All right, we got our main body here. Good. Now we need another loft for this portion. And so we can use this face and just do a sketch over here on the bottom and see how that works. So just double check the picture. So we basically have the same form down here, except there's a slight slant. So we need to create one more plane on that line. I'm going to turn on my planes so I can see. I'll start with the top plane, just by a basic, holding control, clicking on the edge and dragging up. This one, give that 0.6. Let's see if that works. Yeah, 0.6 seems okay. 0.65. Also 0.65 looks good. Okay, gonna go on that and sketch one more time. We have a rectangle. So the front is the same basically point. So I can actually go and line that point up. Pull this back, making sure the origin of the origin, but so I'll click on this point and trying to capture the origin so I can set them horizontal. See. No, it's supposed to be vertical. Looks like it's on the line. Trying to kind of match this front. Although the sketch slightly off. Okay, and from the side, we have a good reference there. Let's do some measurements. Oh. So this is like the top one, 1.1. And this is going to be slightly different. So I'm actually going to measure line to line. 2.28, so we'll do 2.28. 2.2. I'll keep it 2.28. And now the fillets have to be same as the top one, so they match up. Even was a 1-inch fillet. On the back was a 0.7. So that should allow for a nice transition. Okay, our sketch is done. Now we're gonna come in and turn off the planes. Maybe. And we're gonna come in and loft that face to the sketch. So feature, loft, sketch is chosen. Now I'm gonna pick the face. And need to make sure this is lined up, these points. Okay, now we're going somewhere nice. It's looking good. Something I'm going to assume I'll show you guys and I'll come and fix. So we do have a clear dent here, but also on the front, if we look, actually it's pretty smooth. To get a better transition, there is one more step we can take in our law. Under the start and end constraint, for where you pick the face, for me that was the end. I'm gonna pick tangency to face. So then push this back a bit, but the front's gonna be really smooth. So I'm just gonna go down until I achieve that slant, but also get a little bit of tangency. So now it's even more smooth. Okay, let's put this back with the lines. Lastly, we need to take that and kind of extrude out. So I think this is a good time now to mirror over and have both sides, and we can add that section later. One more thing, we wanted that top body to be a separate part. So when we are doing a merge, we need to make sure what are we merging to. So here has two bodies to merge. They actually don't want to merge to that one. We just want to merge to the top one. All right, because I'm going to use a draft on this one, it doesn't work if I do a half. I have to do full so I can draft it. So let's go ahead and mirror this body. The right plane is our mirroring plane. And we're going to have features, two lofts, loft 1 and loft 2. Only merging features can be patterned. Oh, I think they are merging. So let's see, if this loft doesn't work, we can always use the body loft mirror. So I will use this one as a body. And now we have the two sides. If I turn off the sketches, you guys can see I have a really nice main form here. We haven't done any of the fillets yet. Those would be secondary. But right now, these two bodies are separate parts. Because I want to do extrusion on the bottom, I'm just going to come in, select both, and combine them together, add. So now I can use the space to sketch, convert, and a slight extrusion. With 0.1 extrusion with a slight draft. So let's try to look at our images again. Needs more extrusion, so maybe 0.2. Let's try that. Yeah, that seems good. And so I'm going to try to match this back, basically. Okay. And press check. So we have our main body. The only other thing, oh, something I forgot. On this one also, we can merge everything together. We are also only connecting to the top portion. The only part that I want to show you guys is how to do a multi-radius fillet on the back so we can achieve basically this like more rounded on the top and less rounded on the bottom. We'll turn off these and we're gonna go ahead, go on fillet, uneven fillet, basically variable size fillet. And I'm gonna click on this. So it's basically always the start and end point that you need to add. So I'll just type in, I'm gonna do a 0.4 to start with. That's also gonna be 0.4. And I'll come into that one. Maybe this is a 0.3. Let's see. Okay, it's working. Maybe a 0.25. Let's see if we can get it smaller. Nice. And this one, try to do a 0.2 and a 0.2. Okay, so kind of have to continue that on the other side. So that is also a 0.2. This is now 0.3. It's very common that this variable fillet will not work or break. So first thing is to save your file before you do this. Second thing is to just slightly play with the numbers and go down and kind of gradually change so it can follow your curve. We'll look from the side. Let's see, still bump there. We'll see. There is a straight transition. Let's see if that helps it slightly. I think this change from 0.3 to 0.25 is too much. I'm just going to do a 0.28. That's slightly opened up, so it looks better. Let's look at it now. We also have this one at 0.28. All right, let's check. This doesn't seem. We'll try. Yeah, it is definitely like the top is twice as big as the bottom, but because of the form, everything looks very rounded. Okay, we have the main body. Now